Do you have children who are behind in their education? If so, you are in the right place. I'm Dolly Freeman, and I am hosting day 2 of what I'm calling the behind go from behind to learning progress challenge. This challenge is designed just to help you as a homeschooling mom understand what this school year must consist of in order for you to show progress by the end of the year and to alleviate all of those concerns about year end testing and if your child is going to show progress on those tests. Now, yesterday, I talked about how important it was for you to understand the common mistake homeschool moms make that are hindering your progress. If you did not listen to that after this, you're going to want to go back and you're going to make sure that you listen to that as well. So, in today's special series, I want to share with you about debunking the myth your child will learn when they are ready. In this training today, I'm going to be talking to you about the one lie that will never, I hope that you will never believe. Also, the thing that I did that worked, and the secret to getting your kids ready to learn. And with that, I'd like to share with you a story to get you to understand a little bit about the myth that I actually believed wholeheartedly, went forward with it. I knew the people who shared it with me were well meaning friends who thought this to be truth, and it is an actual myth. But before you can really understand it, I want to be able to give you the story about how I fell prey to the lie in the homeschooling community that your children will learn when they're ready. So, when I first started to homeschool, I was part of a homeschooling community that met regularly, and there were several older ladies in the community who became mentors and would share on a monthly meeting some of the discussions. And one time there was the discussion about the importance of delayed learning. And at first I thought that was about, preschoolers and those who uh, felt like it was important to start your schooling at 6 versus 5. But when the meeting began, I quickly understood that this was about struggling learners. This had nothing to do with preschoolers or kindergarten and what age to start kindergarten. Instead, this was about moms who had 12-year-olds who were still not learning to read, and they were making it acceptable within the homeschooling community. And what they were saying is that when your child is ready to learn, they would learn. And so I sat up and I was like, okay, they have readers in their home. They have children who are doing really well. They just have this one child who is just not reading. So maybe they understand a little more than I do at the time. Now, some of the things they were teaching was to go a couple weeks, a couple months, and then pick back up the lessons and see if they appear to be ready. And I know you've heard a lot of these readiness tests of when your child is ready for writing. You'll see them holding the pencil. You'll see them asking how to spell words, and when they're ready for reading, they'll pick up books and they'll make up their own stories and such like this. So I want you to understand those readiness that we have heard from early on are things that I've seen my children do, even my struggling readers. They may not have done it to the equivalent or the amount of times that my other children would have done it, but they were still doing it. And so there was even this one time they said, you might need to put it down for a year or two before they're ready to learn. And so one year I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do this because I was losing my patience. My child was just not learning. And I had a toddler at home that was really needing more attention and the lessons not going on so long. And what ended up happening is that everything I had taught before was completely forgotten. We had lost complete ground. By this point, I had already tried several different curriculums and had changed multiple times. So, in the sense, I welcomed it, and I needed another mom to tell me to do that because I felt like I needed the break. That was a lie. And that was something that I totally wish I had never done, never have done it again. And what ended up happening was that I began to understand that every single person has this innate desire to learn. We all have it. Certain things grab one child's attention where something else will grab another child's attention. Even if you're teaching them the exact same thing. Perfect analogy is when our children were reading The Islands of the Blue Dolphin. Great book. I highly suggest it. In that book, my daughter's narration was all about the relationship. She never once talked about dolphins. And so then I was like, wait a second, there's no dolphins in the book? Oh, yeah, there's dolphins in the book, but she never told me about that. However, my son told me nothing about the people and told me only about the animals. So it's all about those things that grab that child's attention. And when you understand that we all are born with this innate desire to learn, it's how learning is presented, it's how learning is actually not just presented, but actually played out in the process of learning that's going to make the difference. So I want you to never believe the lie that your children will learn when they're ready. We're born ready. We just have to make sure that the situations, the processes in which we're teaching our children makes their mind ready as well. Okay, so the thing I did instead of just keep putting it off until my child told me it was time for him to learn, this is what worked. And if you're not taking notes, I really encourage you to do that if you have a child who is falling behind. So I knew that waiting for my child to want to learn was not the answer. And the reason I knew that was because he began to dislike anything that had to do with books. He really just struggled anytime I said it was a reading lesson. However, what I would find is that as early as the age of 7, he was taking books off my shelf, field guides that were adult books, and he would sit and he would work really hard trying to figure out how to read these books on his own. There's the readiness. He was ready. It was just how he was learning in the process in which we were doing was not working for his mind. There was a lot of attitudes that came in on it that caused me to be impatient, that caused him to feel like he wasn't capable. So there was a lot of things going on there. But I remember thinking, we all know the word or the phrase, practice makes perfect. Well, what I did during this time is I encouraged my son, and I took the word perfect out of it, and I said, practice makes progress. And that's all we were looking at. We were not looking for perfection. We were looking for progress. And so when I introduced that to my son, and I was seeing that he was showing readiness of reading, he wanted to read what was in these adult field guides to know what it was he was finding in the yard in his nature time. I also know how important repetition is to retention. You cannot have retention unless it is repeated. And that is true regardless of the age. You could be my age of 51 and you still need to hear something a couple times before it's retained. This is why it's really good to be hearing and writing. The more senses that we can actually put in the process of our learning, the easier it is for us to retain, because we can be seeing it, hearing it, and writing it. All of those senses help our brain to retain. So repetition is important. So taking this huge break in our child's mechanics of learning was the worst mistake I could have done. We lost so much momentum. Retention was no longer there. He had forgotten everything we have done. We had to start from scratch. And that was very, very discouraging. So what I ended up doing to just give us a little bit of momentum is that we did our reading lessons 2 to 3 times a day. instead of doing it all in this big time where his patients, my patients were struggling, we did some in the morning, we did some in the afternoon, and we did some in the evening. And that is how we had practice makes progress. This was all about practice. This was not about being a perfect reader. This was not about reading at his sister's level. It was not even reading about kids his age. This was all about his journey with his education. And it was about him practicing to show progress in his mechanics of reading. And when we took that turn and we started talking about progress, not perfection, it really helped him relax and breathe through the process. So, the secret to getting your kids ready to learn is something that I really want you to listen into me and really understand the importance. And the secret is confidence. Your children must have confidence, number one, that they're capable of doing something. But confidence is really only there, and I'm talking self confidence, where they believe it themselves. Not that you believe it and you're building up their confidence, but the fact that their confidence is so strong that they believe it themselves and no one can tell them differently. When we get to this point of self confidence where we know we can do something, it's only there because we can do it independently. We understand it, we see it, and we see the next step. And that's what we need to get our children to the point of. Is we need to help them to build their confidence. And when your child is getting further and further behind in the mechanics of reading, writing, arithmetic, and thinking, what's going to happen is their confidence is going to be chipped away. They're going to see kids their own age. They're going to start feeling embarrassed, like my son did. You're going to start feeling like, as a mom, please don't let my child have to read that birthday card at his birthday party. That's embarrassing to him, and he's going to feel inadequate. He can't play this game with family, cousins, because he can't read these cards on his own. Just finding those situations where you feel like your child is no longer going to be a part of it because they're going to be made fun of. So that atmosphere, that environment, those situations chip away from that confidence. So when you get to the point where your child is confident because they're able to do something independently, is where you want to go to. I call that the confidence baseline. This is what I teach. I teach how important it is in order for us to actually have practice that shows progress. Is we cannot meet our children in the plans that we have, because I don't know about you, but I have planned so many perfectly good plans for homeschooling, but I did not give my child books that he was confident in reading, and he surely couldn't read it on his own. So if you're giving your children books to read where you have to sit there and help them read each and every word, and they need help sounding out each and every word, the confidence is not there. But when your child only needs your help every once in a while, maybe 2 or 3 words a sentence, the confidence can begin to build. So oftentimes, because we have this pressure to push our children forward and to get further in their studies and in their progress, we assign them books that we know they're not capable of doing. But we just hope that somehow over the summer, they woke up one day being able to finally read. And it's not that way. So I teach about the confidence baseline inside the solve. Let me get this for you. Inside the solve learning kit, and I just posted the link there for you. Inside this kit, you will find so many resources about the stages of transitions for those 4 mechanics of learning. But what I want to focus in on today is the confidence baseline tracker. I show you how to find your child's confidence baseline. And this at the very beginning of the school year, and how you use that to be able to move forward and show progress through practice. With this confidence tracking, you'll be able to really show major progress. Now, I know some of my clients are like, oh, I hate to think about how far I have to go back in reading levels of books to get my children to the point of feeling confidence. Remember, true confidence, self-confidence, is when they can do something independently. So if your children have yet to read a book on their own, they really don't have confidence. Now, there is the need of you sitting next to them and building their skill during their lesson, but they have to have some form of confidence along the way. And I walk you through how to do that. So, in this lesson, I want you guys to really be thinking very much about not falling prey to the myth of your children will learn when they're ready. No, they're born ready. They're just needing that atmosphere that is encouraging learning. And they're going to need to know that their confidence level is there and respected. And when you meet them at their confidence baseline, I'm telling you what, with practice, you're going to be able to see progress really quickly, because all of a sudden the confidence is what's fueling the motivation in a child. When you have confidence fueling a child, progress is going to happen because they desire it, not mom. And until that desire is met with actual show of progress, it's not going to be able to be done otherwise. Now, this is a challenge this week. So what I want you to be working on today with the training for today is I want you to determine your child's confidence baseline and set a timer for reading lessons 2 to 3 times a day. When you do 2 or 3 lessons that are short, okay, because you don't want to push. When you and me are learning something new, we don't want to do it very long. What we want to do is make sure the child has some way of getting excited. Now, when I say 2 to 3 lessons a day, don't think you have to keep moving forward in your lessons. You can be repeating the same lesson 2 or 3 times a day. And that repetition, remember what I shared earlier, those repetition is how retention is happening. So if your children are reading the exact same words they read earlier in the day, retention is happening because the brain is beginning to now remember, and they're going to have to move through those words faster instead of having to sound them out each and every time. So take the time. And yes, Elizabeth is repeating, practice makes progress. And that's all we want our children to do. Take perfection completely out of the picture. All we're looking for is progress. And when we do that, what's going to happen is it automatically shifts the comparison, where your children are not thinking about other children their age and them being behind. Instead, they're going to be looking inwardly and realizing, wait a second, I'm getting better. I'm improving. I'm making progress. And that is going to build that confidence so fast. All right. So if you can't get started with the kit today, the Solving Learning Challenges kit, that I have you completely covered with all you're going to need to help move your children forward this school year, then I want to invite you to get your free poster set by going to solvelearningchallenges.com. The solvelearningchallenges.com is where you're going to be able to get access to 3 posters that I've created for you. These are for you, and it's going to help you to understand how to influence your kids to love learning. And this is where it's going to walk you through how to structure your lessons. Now, if you are my clients and you don't have this, I don't teach it anywhere else. I put a lot into this for you guys because I want you to just be able to look at these posters and move forward. So know that the secret to identifying gaps in your children's education is without having a tutor. So if you can identify those gaps, you're going to be able to fill them, which is so necessary. And I'm giving you those steps to knowing how to do that. And then how to motivate your kids to love learning is a step-by-step, tried and proven path that will motivate your children, even if they're really behind in their education right now. So you can go get the free posters at solvelearningchallenges.com, or you can go and get the kit that includes the posters at solvelearningchallenges.kit.com. So you decide where you want to start in this journey of taking your kids from behind to learning progress. And I am excited because this is only day 2 of 5. So over today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm showing up at the same time, 2 o'clock. And with it, I'm going to be teaching you something each and every day. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the number one reason your child isn't motivated to learn. So, remember how I debunked that thought today is your child will be ready to learn or will learn when they're ready. Well, I'm going to show you how to motivate them to be ready to learn. And in that, you don't want to miss it because I'm going to give you key things about how I took my child who overcame dyslexia. He's still dyslexic, um, but he is able to read well as our second dyslexic child. So you don't want to miss it because once we can motivate our children and learning, anything becomes possible with them. Okay, so today, remember your assignment for your challenge task is to find out your child's confidence baseline. When you can do that, you'll be able to meet them where they are and build that necessary confidence that will help them to be excited about practice because it's creating progress. Okay, y'all, I'll see you tomorrow, same time, both on Facebook and YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And I hope you invite your homeschool friends to join us. Tag them in the comments if you like, but make sure that they see this because this is designed just for you homeschooling moms. Let's make this year the best progress year you've ever experienced. I'll see you tomorrow.